Have you ever sat alone after a phone call with your child and felt like something just wasn't right? Maybe they brushed you off, raised their voice, or spoke to you in a way that made you feel small. Not angry, necessarily, just invisible. Like your voice doesn't carry the weight it used to. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Growing older should come with wisdom, not with being dismissed. Yet for so many parents, especially after 60, there's a silent pain that settles in. It starts when the tone of conversations changes, when your advice is no longer sought, or worse, when it's laughed off, when holidays go by with fewer calls, when the kids you raised with love now talk to you like you're a burden or an afterthought. And here's the thing, sometimes it doesn't come from cruelty. Sometimes it's just habit, stress, or the fast pace of their lives. But intentional or not, disrespect hurts. It chips away at your confidence and dignity. But here's the good news. You don't have to accept it. There are things you can do. Quiet shifts that can command more respect without ever raising your voice. Things that remind both you and your children that you are worthy of being seen, heard, and treated with care. Let's talk about how to take that power back, gently, confidently, and without confrontation. You deserve respect. And today, we'll talk about how to get it. So if you've been wondering and how to stand tall again in your own family, you're in the right place. Let's start with the very first thing, and it might surprise you. The first thing to do is this: stop chasing their approval. I know that might sound strange. You're the parent after all. Shouldn't they be looking to you for wisdom? But as we age, there's a quiet trap that creeps in. We begin to crave closeness so much, we start bending over backward to keep the peace. We let things slide, ignore rude comments, laugh off dismissiveness, because we think, if I say something, they'll get upset. I'll lose them. But here's the truth. The more you chase approval, the less they offer it. Respect grows when boundaries are clear. And dignity isn't something we beg for, it's something we embody. You don't need to be rude, you don't need to argue, but when you stop seeking their validation, you begin to carry yourself differently. Your silence becomes stronger, your words become deliberate, your presence becomes steady. That shift, subtle but powerful, is often the very thing that reawakens respect in others. And you know what happens when you stop seeking approval? You start focusing on your own worth again. You start remembering who you are outside of being mom or dad. And that brings us to the second shift. Reclaim your identity outside of parenthood. This one is big. So many of us have poured everything into raising our children. We've been the caregivers, the teachers, the comforters, the breadwinners. But now that they're grown, you might find yourself wondering, who am I now? It's easy to forget that you are a whole person, still full of talents, passions, and opinions. The more you reconnect with the things that light you up, the more your children will see you as a person, not just a role. Whether it's starting a small garden, taking a class, joining a book club, volunteering, or simply doing things that make you feel alive again. These are not luxuries. They are necessities. They remind both you and your family that your life is rich and full, and that you deserve to be treated accordingly. Have you ever noticed how people are drawn to those who are passionate, curious, and alive? That doesn't stop after 60. In fact, it's more important now than ever. You don't have to be busy all the time, but having something that belongs just to you, something outside your role as a parent, can completely shift the way others interact with you. It sends a message. My life has meaning beyond serving others. And that's powerful. Now, once you begin to stop chasing approval and start reclaiming your identity, you'll notice another opportunity open up. And it's this: how you respond to disrespect matters more than you think. And that brings us to the third point. Refuse to engage in power struggles. I want to say this gently but clearly. Not every raised voice deserves a reply. Not every sarcastic comment needs to be answered. You're not here to win against your child. You're here to lead. And leadership, especially in family dynamics, often looks like calm strength. When your child talks down to you or brushes you off, you have a choice. You can match their tone, or you can step back and say, I'm not going to continue this conversation if I'm not being treated with respect. Not out of anger, not to punish, but as a simple, calm boundary. It's amazing how quickly people adjust when they realize their behavior has consequences. Not dramatic ones, but quiet, firm ones. Think of it like this. When you carry yourself with dignity, you silently teach others how to treat you. The moment you stop trying to convince them and instead hold your space with grace, they begin to notice, even if they don't admit it, even if it takes time. Your job isn't to fight them into respecting you. It's to model the kind of respect you expect. That's where real power lives, not in shouting, but in standing tall. And speaking of standing tall, let's not forget the power of your voice, not just in what you say, but in how you say it. Because the way we speak, especially when we feel hurt, can either build bridges or burn them. So let's talk next about how to speak in a way that commands respect without conflict. Because the way we speak, especially in moments of tension, can change everything. And I'm not talking about raising your voice or being firm in a harsh way. I'm talking about a calm, steady tone, the kind that says, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I don't need to yell to prove it. Here's something powerful. When you speak with clarity and calmness, people listen differently. Your children might be used to a version of you that stays quiet to avoid conflict, or one that tries to keep the peace at any cost. But when you start expressing your thoughts, not as complaints, but as truths, you send a different message. You're saying, I'm not angry, I'm just not willing to be dismissed. You might say something like, when you interrupt me, I feel like my words don't matter. I need you to hear me out. Or, I understand you're stressed, but I won't accept being spoken to like that. Notice the tone. Calm, not accusing. Direct, but not harsh. These are not ultimatums. They're boundaries. And the more you practice this, the more natural it feels. And if you're thinking, but they never used to talk to me like this, you're not wrong. But relationships evolve. Sometimes people fall into patterns without realizing it. Your job is not to make them feel guilty. It's to gently remind them that the pattern isn't working for you anymore. Now, while your words matter, your energy matters just as much. That leads us into something that often gets overlooked when talking about respect: how you treat yourself. And I want you to hear this clearly. The way you respect yourself teaches others how to do the same. If you're always putting your needs last, always saying yes when you mean no, or always tolerating being left out or talked over, your children learn that it's okay. But when you begin to value your time, your opinions, and your peace of mind, everything shifts. Think about the little things. Do you set time for yourself, even just 30 minutes a day, where you're not answering anyone else's call, not solving anyone else's problem? Do you speak kindly to yourself when you look in the mirror? Do you dress in a way that makes you feel good, even if no one else is watching? These are the quiet choices that reinforce dignity, and over time, those around you feel it too. I once spoke to a woman in her 70s. Her name was Margaret. She told me her daughter used to speak to her in such a dismissive way, especially in front of others. Margaret said nothing for years. Then one day she simply stopped engaging in those conversations. No arguments, no lectures. When her daughter's tone turned sour, Margaret would pause, take a breath, and calmly say, "This is not a good time for me. Let's talk later." And she meant it. She'd walk away if needed. No drama, just quiet self-respect. It didn't take long for her daughter to notice. "What's going on with Mom?" she asked her brother. "She seems different, not colder, just steadier." Margaret had finally remembered her worth, and that changed everything. But even as we do all these things, stand taller, speak clearly, set boundaries, it's also important to recognize this. Respect isn't just something we receive, it's something we invite. And one of the most powerful ways to invite it is by creating space for honest connection. That brings us to something many people overlook: listening with presence. Yes, even when you're the one feeling disrespected. I know, it sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes children act out or pull away because they don't feel seen either. They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, or maybe they don't know how to talk to you anymore without slipping into old roles. So when the moment is right, not in the middle of conflict, but when things are calm, try asking something simple like, "How are you really?" And then just listen, not to fix, not to correct, just to understand. That kind of listening, quiet, non-judgmental, and full of presence, can open doors you didn't know were closed. Now, does this mean you excuse disrespectful behavior? No, but it means you open the door to deeper connection so that respect doesn't just become about rules or boundaries, it becomes about relationship. And relationships are what sustain us, especially in this stage of life. If you're feeling like the bond has frayed between you and your child, know this: it's never too late to rebuild, but it starts with small shifts: how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you show up for you, and how you listen to them. These things are powerful. They might seem simple, but they're not easy. They require patience, courage, and grace. And when you start showing up differently, even if your children don't say it out loud, they notice. They feel the shift. And over time, the tone of the relationship begins to shift too. Let's continue, because there's more we can do, not just to be treated with respect, but to feel that sense of dignity in every part of our lives. Because that's what this is really about. Not just changing how others treat us, but reclaiming how we see ourselves. Let's keep going, and when you begin to see yourself with fresh eyes, everything else starts to follow. You carry yourself differently. You speak more gently to yourself, and bit by bit, the world around you responds in kind. But let's not stop here. Let's talk about one more quiet but powerful shift. Stop over-explaining yourself. This one catches a lot of people off guard. See, when someone disrespects us, especially someone we love, we often try to explain, to justify, to plead our case. "I only said that because I care," or "I didn't mean to upset you," or "I was just trying to help." Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be understood. But when you constantly explain yourself, especially to someone who isn't really listening, you send the message that their comfort is more important than your truth. And that chips away at your dignity, even if you don't realize it. So here's something you can try. Instead of over-explaining, simply state how you feel. Once, gently, clearly, and without apology. Then let the silence speak. That silence isn't emptiness, it's strength. It tells the other person, I said what I meant and I meant what I said. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince. That's not your role anymore. You've earned the right to speak with peace, and you've earned the right to protect your peace, too. And that leads us into perhaps the most important piece of all. One that's often the hardest to hear, but the most freeing once it sinks in. Let go of the need to be liked by your children all the time. It's hard, isn't it? After all, you spent years loving them, protecting them, sacrificing for them. Wanting to be close to them is natural. But here's something no one tells you. You can love your children deeply and still say no. You can want connection without chasing approval. You can want peace without being passive. Respect isn't about being liked. It's about being seen. And sometimes when you stop trying to be the parent they want and start being the person you truly are, something beautiful happens. The relationship becomes more real, more honest, more mutual. Your child may not always like your choices. They may not agree with everything you say, but they will learn to meet you at eye level. And if they don't, that's not a reflection of your worth. That's their journey to walk. You are not failing because your child is distant. You are not unworthy because they roll their eyes or take you for granted. You are not too sensitive for wanting to be treated with care. You are human. You are wise. You are still growing, and you are allowed to expect respect. Now, as we come to the end of this conversation, I want you to take a deep breath. Put your hand over your heart if you'd like, and say this to yourself: I matter. My voice matters. My peace matters. And I deserve to be treated with dignity. Let that settle in. This isn't just about your children. It's about you. About remembering your own value, not as parent, not as someone's parent, but as a person with a full life behind you and a beautiful life still ahead. You have so much to offer. Your wisdom, your presence, your kindness, they are treasures. And it's never too late to walk with your head a little higher, your voice a little stronger, and your heart a little more open. So if this video spoke to you, I want to invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Has this been your experience? What has helped you feel stronger, more respected, more like you again? Let's talk about it, because I promise you're not alone. And if you found this helpful, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. We're building a space here where aging doesn't mean fading. It means blooming in a new way. You deserve that. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wherever you are, however you're feeling right now, I want you to remember this. You are still becoming. You are still worthy. And you still matter. Here's to living your most dignified, peaceful, and powerful life at any age.